that lead is supposed to be ready to go the moment that lead comes in.
Yes.
It just doesn't work that way.
The secret to online buyer lead conversion is this. Call them fast. If they don't answer, call them again.
CRMs and AI and all that stuff, none of that stuff is going to move the needle like what you just said. Speed to lead, frequency of attempts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Level Up Podcast with myself, Greg Harrelson. This is where I focus on taking you from agent to entrepreneur. As you know, I have a passion for developing agents. And on today's episode, I'm going to share another quick strategy on how you can increase your production. I'm going to be real, so you be ready. Let's level up.
Hey everybody, it's Greg Harrelson here with my co-pilot Abe Safa, and we're going to be coming at you from the Level Up podcast again and also YouTube Live. You know, Abe and I were talking about this episode, and we're talking about online buyer leads because both of us generate a lot of leads for our team, for our brokerages and whatnot. And, there's this challenge, that all of us have. And I think all of us are likely to be just kind of sick and tired of what appears to be a low conversion rate, in our industry. I like to believe that our conversion rate is pretty strong as a team, as a brokerage. But as an industry, it just seems like the conversion rate I don't know that it's getting any better. Agents, companies are using all this technology, AI, chat. There's so many different things that we keep adding on to ISAs, AI ISAs, virtual sales teams, all these things that we keep adding on and on and on. And we haven't seen the numbers move. And I think we want to just talk about let's talk about the secrets. And it might not necessarily be a secret, but we should call it a secret because it seems like nobody's talking about it, or at least nobody's listening as to what the keys are to really, really do well with online lead conversion. So, Abe, thanks for being here. Let's talk about conversion with these buyer leads.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg.
Challenges that you're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially now with the advent of AI, we're throwing more and more stuff at online buyer leads. And you're right, it hasn't moved the needle. And I think we as an industry, haven't spent enough time in going to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
And I think what the root is, and it always, to me, it's the root of everything. It goes back to the mindset of the agent. Like, that's the first thing that you have to fix. Like, that's got to be the foundation. And then everything from there you could build on.
Yes.
So I think that's where it starts. We got to go back and say, okay, what are your expectations as an agent? What online buyer lead sources are you using, and what are your expectations of those? What are your expectations of the leads themselves, the people you talk to? And I think it starts there. So first and foremost, I want to say like I probably get this complaint. I'm sure you do as well. More than anything else, is people complain about bad leads.
Oh yeah, it's been going on for years.
And that may never change, right? That's so we actually start changing the mindset of agents, because there is no such thing as a bad lead.
Well, let me ask you something real quick. I know I'm interrupting you, but a question just come across my mind. What is the definition of a bad lead? And I'm not asking you, but I'm thinking of it as a leader. If somebody generates thousands of leads every month and gives them out to my agents, I'm thinking, okay, there is a conversation around bad leads. Okay, so how do you think real estate agents define bad lead?
I think the way to define it is what their expectations of the lead is. They expect the lead to come in. They want to pick up the phone, make the call, set the appointment, go show a property. Right? So that's their expectation. Like, that lead is supposed to be ready to go the moment that lead comes in.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
So
when that doesn't happen, then it's a bad lead.
Yeah. So we this can go beyond leads, but there's this one thought about expectation. Expectations lead to disappointment, right? So when we have these expectations, especially if they're unrealistic expectations, and those expectations go unfulfilled, then it leads to disappointment. Then once we get disappointed and we get disappointed over and over again, then all of a sudden we abandon the process. I think that that's kind of what happens. So I agree with you. What I was going to say is I think that people are defining bad lead based on a time frame. How many times do I have to attempt to reach them to get them on the phone? If it's a lot, that's a bad lead. How many times do I have to talk to them before they set an appointment? If it's a lot, that's a bad lead. How long is the intended time between your first conversation and when they intend to buy something? Oh, it's 6 months. It's 12 months. It's 18 months away. 18 months away, 12 months away. That's a bad lead. I need some more now leads. So I think that that's what's determining bad lead is based on time frame. When I would think, I don't even think there's such thing as a bad lead, but if I was going to make up a definition of a bad lead, it would be a lead that I got that cannot buy. They cannot buy. Maybe they just cannot qualify. They had a bankruptcy last week. Like they're just not even out of the process of bankruptcy. There's no way they can buy. They have no money for a down payment, and something that's not qualified. I even don't like the word bad, but if I was going to have to stuff something into that, it would be there's a condition why this person cannot do a transaction. It would never have anything to do with how long it may take, how long this relationship's going to have to extend to before I get a transaction out of them. That would not dictate whether something was bad or not. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think you were spot on in everything that you just said. And I think it has to start with the agent recognizing that and really shifting their mindset and their approach to these leads.
Yeah.
You can't just like prejudge them. You can't, because of the lead source, think in advance that, okay, well, this one I expect is to buy earlier. And this lead source I expected to maybe not buy later on. You have to have the conversation with somebody. So your job is to actually make the call, talk to the leads, and then only after you've talked to them and figure out what their timeline is, not what your timeline is, then put them into a system. And if it's an immediate lead, you're going to get some. You're going to get some that are ready to go now. And then those are the ones you set the appointment. And then the ones that aren't immediate, you have to figure out what their timeline is and why. Like if they're 2 years out, exactly why, what has to happen in the next 2 years for them to be ready. And then once you figure that out, you have to trust that you've got the right systems in place to manage them and nurture them and be ready for them when they're ready to buy. Yeah. When you have all those in place, your whole attitude towards leads starts to change.
I agree. And we started off the conversation. What's the secret to online buyer lead conversion? It's really interesting because this morning I was doing an early morning coaching call, and and one of the things that I shared was with this select group that I coach in the early morning was that, I get bombarded with questions on, how do I get more listings? How do I, convert more buyers? Basically what do I need to do, Greg, to build my business to get to the next level? And, we find ourselves, and this is the same thing with buyer leads. We have found ourselves answering that question, unfortunately, as an industry, because I tend to not answer it this way, but as an industry, we find ourselves answering it with, well, do you have an ISA team? Do you have your action plan set up? What CRM are you using? What is the script that you're using? We tend to like, oh, well, what are you sending them? What is your value? And we seem to get off track and go into this area like all of this stuff matters. The secret to online buyer lead conversion is this. Call them fast. If they don't answer, call them again. If they don't answer, text them. Then set them up on a workflow or an action plan or a drip email, depending on what language you use, depending on the CRM that you're using. If they open up or click through any of your action plans, call them. When they engage, react to their engagement by calling them. The next day, call them again, text them again, email them again. Set them up on a saved search so they're getting automation. Adjust the saved search. Call them again. Text them again. Call them again. That's the secret to online conversion. Now, when we listen to what I just said, if you calculate it, and I don't know exactly what the calculation would show, but I probably said reach out and make somewhere around 10 to 11 attempts. And that's what statistics show. That the agent that makes that many attempts and uses different forms to attempt them gets them on the phone. And there was a statistic that I saw that you had said, Abe, about 1% of how many times the consumer, how many agents that they're talking to before they commit to an agent. Did you see a statistic on that?
Yeah. So NAR, there's a stat, 73% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent during their home search. So it's the first one that got to them.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
So that's the secret. Right. And like now, of course, the technology companies and the lead companies definitely want to don't really like there's not a lot of advantage for tech companies to give you the message that I just gave you. There's not a lot of, think about it, like, because if we followed that, we wouldn't need to buy as many leads. So that would hurt lead companies. If we followed that, we wouldn't have to rely on drip emails and buying campaigns from other CRMs. We'd have to, so that would hurt them there. As a matter of fact, and we all need a CRM, but how many times do we switch CRMs thinking this CRM is going to make us more effective and this CRM is going to make us more efficient, to find out 2 years later when we look at our bottom line, the financials never changed. So again, but we keep, the narrative is a better CRM, a better this. So we keep buying more, consuming more technology, consuming more campaigns, consuming more content, consuming more leads. When the real secret is formula that I just shared. What's some other thoughts, Abe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you know me as well as anybody. I'm about as tech friendly as they come.
Yeah.
I'm all into CRMs and AI and all that stuff. None of that stuff is going to move the needle like what you just said. Speed to lead, frequency of attempts, make it a goal to talk to every single lead that comes into you. Period.
Yeah.
Because
no matter how many attempts you have to make,
you make that one change and watch how your conversion goes through the roof. Just that one change. Then from there, of course, you got to dig deep and figure out what their timeline is. You got to nurture them and be ready for them when they're ready. But over time, what you're going to realize is that simple fix by itself is going to really, really move the needle for you in your business and increase your conversion tremendously. Yeah, the technology, the perfect AI composed email is nice. Okay, but that's to optimize later on, right? That's not going to move the needle like what Greg just told you.
It's an enhancement, right, Abe? I mean, it definitely, like if you would focus on this secret and be consistent about it, then you start going and enhancing your processes with some of these AI enhanced emails and all these other things. Okay, now we're talking. But the ROI comes from the biggest bump in ROI comes from a real estate agent, the human activity. And then the rest of it, we're just getting small little fractions of bumps, just small little bumps by enhancing our systems. Maybe we're enhancing a system and we're saving 30 minutes a day, or we're enhancing a system and we got like a 0.2%, increase in conversion, where we could actually go from 1% conversion to 6% conversion just by the activities. But then if you add on top of that and you add some sort of enhancements with technology, well, then you're going to go from 6 to 6.2. But the key is we're all focusing on going from 1 to 1.1. That's not even going to show up in our financials. We want to go from 1 to 6. And to get to 1 to 6% conversion, you have to do what I just shared. I can tell you that. I mean, any lead company would tell you that. There's a lead company out there. I believe this is correct. I know it's HomeLight, but I believe what I'm going to say is fairly accurate. From my understanding of it is this: HomeLight is going to start sending the leads, and now what they're doing is they're sending the leads to you, and they're monitoring how many times the way HomeLight used to work. And we're already experiencing this. We get a lead sent to us. We then call the number. Well, if you called the number and would have left a voicemail, then right after that, they would have given you the contact's number. But now they don't give you the contact's number. You still have to call that dedicated number and punch in a code. But if you don't have a conversation, they do not give you the client's name and number. Now what they're doing is they give it to you, and then you call it again, call it again, call it again, call it again. And it's the first person who actually gets them on the phone who gets the number. So what are they doing? What have they figured out? I think they figured out that they give this lead to an agent. They call them one time. As a matter of fact, I know what they know is that these agents weren't even calling the leads. What they were doing is they would dial the number, punch in the code, and then hang up real quick just to get the client's real name and telephone number. And then maybe they were calling them or not calling them. But as some people would be calling them, just put it in the CRM and let automation go out and reach them. So I believe what happened is these companies have figured out that was a hack from real estate agents. That's not helping their conversion. So now they're not giving out the information until somebody reaches them, which means now that lead is going to get I bet you that lead gets 15 attempts by multiple agents now in the same day. And that lead will be reached and it will be talked to. Brilliant.
I think it's brilliant.
Brilliant.
Needs to work that. And that's brilliant. Because what's going to happen, as you said, once they get the number, guess what? That agent's number of attempts drops like a rock.
Yep.
It just drops. And because we thought just put them in the database and then rely on some sort of nurture or some sort of campaign to try to reach out to them. So
that whole system shows, right? That whole system right there, it just reeks of it's all about the attempts. That's the secret. The secret is number of attempts.
So if these tech companies figure that out, why haven't agents figured that out yet?
Yeah. And another question is, have we figured it out? We just don't want to. The question becomes, why aren't we doing something about it?
Yeah.
Why are we going through all these efforts to avoid just increasing number of attempts? You know how much easier it is to just say, I'm going to surrender. And my next lead, I'm just going to make 6 attempts today. There's you don't have to pull your credit card out for that. You don't have to go in onboard for a new system and take the next couple of months to switch over your stuff and figure this out and figure out how to integrate this with Follow Up Boss and these new workflows. You don't have to do any of that. You could actually make a decision right now that you're just going to double the number of attempts that you're making on the leads that you're getting. And I can assure you, you're going to see a dramatic increase in your conversion right there alone. No money. Now, why are we not doing that?
That's here. And a dramatic decrease in your lead cost.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep buying new leads. You're actually talking to them when they come in.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, for those of you, we sure do appreciate you listening to the Level Up podcast and watching us live on YouTube. 2 things. Number 1, please subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button because we really want you to get value out of what we're sharing. And in this way, with subscribing, you're going to make sure to get a notification when we do upload another video. And then, of course, consider joining Agent Success Academy. It's Abe and R's coaching company where we're coming and doing a live deep dive coaching call. They're really like master classes. Every single week, we're doing a master class on a particular subject. I think, Abe, there's like 200 recorded videos of master classes we've done on various subjects. Am I accurate in that number?
There is actually, today is call number 201. So
Wow.
200 videos. Yeah.
That is fantastic. So the amount of content and information that you get by joining us with the Agent Success Academy is overwhelming. And there are agents in here doing 15, 19 listings per month. So if you're looking at getting listings or converting more with your buyers, check us out. All right, Abe, I appreciate you being here, and we'll do this again next week.
Take care. Thank you all for watching.
Bye-bye, everybody.